This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Friday, July 24th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Tanzanians are mourning Friday following the death of former President Benjamin Mkapa at age 81. Current President John Magufuli announced today in a statement that Mkapa died in the early hours in the Dar es Salaam hospital where he had been receiving treatment. Mkapa is fondly remembered for having ushered in multiparty democracy and working to end conflict in East Africa, leading several regional peace mediation initiatives as his country's third president between 1995 and 2005. Mkapa, a former journalist, also served as an ambassador and foreign minister. He oversaw economic reforms that helped stabilize a struggling economy and secure debt relief from foreign donors. President Magufuli has declared a 7-day mourning period during which all flags will be flown at half-mast. A prominent South Sudanese economist is in the United States on Friday after fleeing South Sudan and arriving Thursday at Dallas Airport outside Washington, D.C., with his wife and 3 small children after traveling from Kenya. According to Reuters, Biar Ajak is accusing South Sudan's President Salva Kiir of ordering a hit squad to kill or kidnap him in Nairobi, an allegation immediately and vehemently denied by Juba government. Ajak alleges that President Kiir felt threatened by his efforts to expose corruption and promote democracy in the country, which has been mired in civil war from 2013 to 2018. South Sudanese Presidential Secretary Ateni Wek Ateni says Ajak's allegations are baseless. South Africa is waging a tough battle against COVID-19. President Cyril Ramaphosa says schools are closing for 4 weeks to limit the spread of coronavirus, which he described as a storm hitting the country. The school closing order comes a week after teachers' unions urged authorities to close schools throughout August, citing the increase in COVID-19 cases. South Africa currently has the 5th highest total of coronavirus infections in the world, with more than 400,000. Ramaphosa says the school closures begin Monday and classes are likely to resume on August 24th for most students. However, Ramaphosa says grade 12 teachers and students will take only a 1-week break, while students in grade 7 will resume classes after 2 weeks. There are over 15.5 million global COVID-19 infections and more than 633,000 worldwide deaths, according to Johns Hopkins University data. A UNICEF-sponsored COVID-19 Innovation Challenge saw some 80,000 young Nigerians submit community-based solutions to the coronavirus pandemic. The award-winning entries from Nigerians aged 14 to 35 included one man who pitched the use of solar panels to create a sustainable water supply system to help combat the virus. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
28-year-old Chukwuma Nwachukwu's innovation is work in progress. His goal is to use solar panels to supply clean water to this community in Abuja that doesn't have access to it.
I started developing the idea as soon as I, saw the problem, yeah? So I started developing the idea. I also did, a couple of research to also understand how this innovation will be beneficial to the community. One thing that really stood out for me is the fact that this solution is reliable, it is cost-effective.
Nwachukwu is among tens of thousands of young Nigerians who entered the UNICEF COVID-19 Innovation Challenge that launched in May and continued for 6 weeks. Each week, there was a new winner with the best idea or innovation for community-based solution to combat the impacts of COVID-19 in Nigeria.
Imagine if a community with a population of over 2,000 people have access to clean water, this would go a long way in ensuring that people in these communities can easily wash their hands and not, transmit the virus.
Other young innovators like Habiba Erin Falami, a medical student, created an online community market for buyers and sellers to transact locally.
The reason we are we are allowing people to shop from only their community is because we do not want dispatchers to go far away, to go to other communities, thereby exposing themselves.
The project coordinator, Kolawole Ladijobi, says the innovations show how much young people can contribute in difficult times.
Many of us have underestimated the power of the youth in Nigeria. This is evidence that the youth are ready to work and ready to cause a change in their families, in their communities, and as well cause a change for Nigerians as well.
An estimated 60 million Nigerians, or about 1/3 of the country's population, do not have access to clean and safe water, according to non-profit WaterAid. In a time like this, when proper hand washing and hygiene is emphasized, UNICEF innovators like Chukwuma Nwachukwu and Habiba Erin Falami bring hope to communities. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja.
As Israel battles a second wave of COVID-19, protests against the government's alleged mismanagement of the crisis are gaining strength. Tens of thousands of young Israelis are taking to the streets, many demanding that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu resign. Linda Grantstein reports from Jerusalem.
The demonstrators are mostly young and they are angry. Many blame Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for the coronavirus health and economic crisis, with some dubbing him the crime minister.
We have a very corrupt prime minister and we want him to go home. It's clear that the only crisis here is political. It's being managed for personal interests and out of a personal viewpoint, and it's killing the country. He's taking us down with him.
Along with Netanyahu's political opponents, the protesters include various sectors of the population who are suffering severe economic hardship during the crisis. They are demanding financial help.
And even if it's not a grant, then at least like the European countries give them a loan. We are not able to have a loan even. So something needs to happen. And whatever comes out of Jerusalem, whatever comes out of the Knesset, it sounds so disconnected.
Netanyahu has continually promised to extend unemployment benefits, compensate businesses, and distribute stimulus grants. But many have not received these benefits and do not believe Netanyahu's promises. They accuse him of only being concerned with his ongoing corruption trial.
We have just one prime minister who thinks only about one thing, which is how to escape the trial and the charges. The vast majority of the people, including those who voted for him, do not believe a single word he says. So this is a leadership crisis to begin with. He has to be resigned or to be moved aside.
Israeli analysts say the pandemic has challenged young people's faith in the future. Overall unemployment in Israel is more than 21%, and among the youth, it's closer to 30%.
Now the corona crisis generated, of course, a loss of jobs and opportunities, and many of the plans that these young people had, if it is travel or studying or earning money for something they wanted to achieve, if it's an apartment or something else, then this has evaporated in a very short period of time, and they are very frustrated about that.
Emotions are high, and the demonstrations have often ended in violent clashes with the police. But the protesters say they will not leave the streets until they see real changes that will help them weather the pandemic. Linda Gradstein for VOA News, Jerusalem.
Spain was the epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic in April, but after imposing one of Europe's strictest lockdowns, the infections and death rates have dropped. However, the trend is taking a turn for the worse. As Alfonso Bito reports from Barcelona, the cases have risen threefold in July, and now restrictions are being reimposed. Iha Sikanenka narrates this story.
Just as Spain's hospitals were returning to normal, several regions in the country are seeing new coronavirus outbreaks. Officials blame the surge on social and family gatherings. Now, regions like Catalonia have reinstated restrictions.
The affected activities are mass cultural events and also nightlife, so as to close it off completely and suspend activities.
For now, dancing, sports and cultural events are prohibited, but bars can operate at 50% and customers are not required to wear masks. Some of the affected businesses, like gyms, argue they should not be forced to close because they are not behind the surge in COVID-19 cases.
They are relying on that, and that is a lie. So today, we are at the demonstration asking that if they want to limit access to the gym, we can understand it because we have to take care of ourselves, but not to be closed.
Sports industry members and supporters in Barcelona are demanding they be allowed to work. Gabriel and Sabrina have had to close their fitness club again, despite taking all the required health and safety measures.
There have to be penalties for people who behave irresponsibly. But those of us who are working as we should be, who are obeying the rules, and who are adapting to this virus, we have to be able to keep working.
Authorities say they are watching the numbers to see if they will need to tighten the restrictions yet again. For Alfonso Beato in Barcelona, Igor Tikhanenko, VOA News.
After the outbreak of coronavirus in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, the regional government ordered lockdowns across the region and is asking everybody to stay at home. While the lockdown is impacting thousands, some people who used to depend on daily incomes are now facing serious challenges providing food for their families. VOA's Ribaz Majid reports and Bezan Hamdad narrates.
During lockdowns caused by coronavirus, many poor families face harsh economic challenges. Many charity groups in the Kurdistan region have been established to collect money, buy food, and give it to the people who cannot work.
There are lots of hungry people with no food in this city. We are aware of their condition. There are families who have no food in their houses. Last night, a family called us, and we immediately visited them. They had bread and tea for dinner. That was all they had. The husband was a worker, and they were living in a rental house.
The groups wait until it gets dark to deliver the goods to poor families to avoid any stigma.
We buy the things that are essential for making food, such as rice, beans, tea, oil, tomato, milk, and many more.
When the charities arrive in a neighborhood, group members start calling the families that are on the list. Volunteers say the need is overwhelming.
There are families who say, "Come inside and look at our house. Then I will accept the food." There was absolutely no food in their house. The husband used to work as a worker. He no longer can work. They are in a rental house, and they cannot pay the rent.
While the lockdown applied by the government in Kurdistan region is no longer in effect, economic setbacks are still felt for working-class people, alongside the economic crisis that has been going on for the past several years. For Ribaz Majid and Kalar, Iraqi Kurdistan, Bejan Hamdard, VOA News.
Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Linor Moudou, your VOA health correspondent.
Let us be perfectly clear. All countries.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization says there is no information or evidence suggesting that the coronavirus can be transmitted by mosquitoes.
There are 2 published studies.
It is a respiratory virus which spreads primarily through droplets, generated when an infected person coughs or sneezes, or through droplets of saliva or discharge from the nose.
This happens during pandemics in the past.
For more information on COVID-19, visit who.int or contact your local or national health authorities.
Welcome back to Africa 54. A visual artist in Nigeria's conservative northern region is on a mission to challenge some stereotypes about women. This includes the notion that certain trades are for men only and that women who venture into them are bound to fail. 25-year-old artist Mariam Uma Maigida told VOA she also uses her paintings to demand justice for victims of sexual violence. Haruna Shehu has our story.
Mariam Umar Maigida is a Nigerian artist who has always used her talents to highlight various aspects of what it means to be human.
My paintings cover different aspects of human endeavor. Some are for decoration, some on education, culture, politics, and some are about respect for parents and women.
But recently, her work has become a call to action to stop sexual abuse against women and children.
I have been making paintings to highlight sexual violence, and I have done more recently because of the surge in reported cases of terrible rape, including that of a female student who was raped and murdered while studying in a church. There was also the gang rape of a 12-year-old girl, as well as the rape of a 6-month-old baby and a 7-month-old. Those are the incidents behind paintings like this one.
She incorporates culturally significant fabric and colors into her work.
This one in the middle shows an educated woman, both religious and Western education. That is why I placed her on these books. The paintings here shows a woman with her mouth sealed to show how most rape victims don't get justice, even after reporting the assault to the police.
The work is proactive and challenging, but Megida has always been willing to challenge the norms of society that often break down along gender roles.
I was the only female student from northern Nigeria in our art class. There was no one to mingle with. My friends were going to their classes in groups while I was just alone. I was going to lectures alone and doing my assignments alone. And because art was seen as mainly a male course, most especially among Southerners, some people looked at me with contempt, thinking I will never succeed in it.
But she has succeeded and along the way become an inspiration to other female artists.
Now a lot of people are contacting me, sending messages on a daily basis. Some calling my parents to express their delight about my paintings and what I am doing. In fact, there are people who are bringing their children to me to teach them painting.
She says she is a living example that women can take control of their own lives.
My message to other women is for them to know that being entrepreneurial with skills for self-reliance is very important. Women entrepreneurs are more respected in our society, and that is why I want them to take it seriously.
Haruna Shehu with that interesting report. Every June or July, giant schools of sardines ply South Africa's east coast, swimming north after spawning. The annual migration of these tiny fish, called the sardine run, delights fishermen and women in part because it also attracts larger marine predators. Asma Botmi-Clark has the details from Durban.
This is the sardine run season, a migration of billions of sardines along South African coast. The natural phenomenon is an annual event, but this year the concentration of fish is especially impressive as it has moved closer to shore.
Sardines are a very important fishery to South Africa. It's in terms of catch, it's used to be one of our biggest catches in terms of tonnage, so there's a big industry around it and lots of people involved, so it's in South Africa's interest to manage that fishery wisely.
Beyond the economic stakes, the sardine run is a providential windfall for many animals. It attracts other marine life including sharks, dolphins, whales and seabirds, all part of a regulated but fragile ecosystem.
Total annual catch or total allowable catch of sardine has dropped from over 200,000 tons per annum in the early parts of 2000s down to less than 20,000 tons last year. So the fish has just disappeared. And what seems to have happened is that some of the fish seems to have moved onto the eastern side of the Agulhas banks.
Global warming and overfishing endanger the movement of these marine animals along the South African coasts. These changes also threaten the lives of the villagers and the whole economy that's been built around the sardine run. Asma Botmi-Clark for VOA Africa, Durban.
3 countries launched missions officially kicking off the summer space race to Mars. A satellite snaps pictures of the sun in ways Earth-based cameras cannot. and the comet NASA calls a natural firework streaks the skies again. VOA's Arashar Basadi brings us the week in space.
American astronauts Bob Behnken and Chris Cassidy taking a spacewalk this week to switch batteries outside the International Space Station.
Copy, Chris.
It was the duo's fourth spacewalk in a month. Each have completed a total of 10 spacewalks, tying the U.S. record. In less than 2 weeks, Behnken and Cassidy will leave the ISS aboard the same SpaceX Dragon crew capsule that brought them in May. It will be the first splashdown off the Florida coast in 45 years. SpaceX joined the history-making week with a record-setting turnaround speed to relaunch the same Falcon 9 booster that sent astronauts Behnken and Cassidy to the ISS. The booster carried a South Korean communications satellite and successfully landed aboard a drone ship called Just Read the Instructions. Meanwhile, the European Space Agency and NASA have released the first images of what they call campfires on the Sun. The images came from their joint mission called Solar Orbiter.
We're going to be able to, for the first time, image the polar regions of the sun. So it's going to go close to the sun, but it's also going to go above the poles. And so we're going to be able to see the magnetic fields and the flows on the polar regions, which we've never done before.
Project scientist Holly Gilbert says Solar Orbiter's proximity to the sun more accurately measures the star's weather than do cameras on Earth.
By imaging and being able to observe the polar regions, we're going to be able to understand more about what's happening inside the sun as well. It's going to be really exciting when we first observe the poles because we don't know what we'll see, and we really don't have a real great handle on that. And also, as we get closer and the imaging getting closer, I think that's going to be really exciting.
Gilbert adds the closer images may help researchers better understand how the atmosphere outside the sun is hotter than its surface, while also providing a clearer understanding of weather conditions on or near the sun. This could help safeguard air travel and wireless networks on Earth. In other news, the United Arab Emirates recently launched a rocket from Japan to Mars, marking the Arab world's first interplanetary mission. Expect the craft to reach Mars in February of 2021, marking 50 years since the formation of the UAE. China also started its summer road trip to Mars with its launch of an unmanned probe. It is the country's first independent mission to another planet. The probe should begin looking for a soft entry point through the planet's atmosphere in February on its mission to search for signs of water or ice. Finally this week, the comet C2020 F3, better known as Neowise, streaked through the Swiss skies. After disappearing from view July 23rd, NASA says it will not be seen again for 6,800 years. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News, Washington.
In our entertainment segment, with so many virtual live music concerts and performances on social media, it's hard to know what's worth watching. Music Time in Africa host Heather Maxwell, though, makes it easy. She gets us straight to the best gigs on the continent. This weekend, La Missy is the one to watch. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Esther. Hello, everyone. Some of you may remember La Missy from last year when I featured her music video called First Fool. La Missy is an amazing recording artist, but not only that, she's a really powerful performing artist, and that's a rare find. Luckily for us, for the world, she's giving a virtual concert tomorrow night. And here to talk about it is La Missy herself.
Hi, Heather.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing fine. So are you excited about tomorrow?
Very excited. Very excited.
Tell me about it. What is it going to be like?
I haven't done this in a long while due to the pandemic. And then it just brings me back to my element. And it's a whole great feeling, you know, that I could get the opportunity to reach out to my fans, family, friends, you know. And, you know, the fact that we are not allowed to have outdoor events and we can still take advantage of social media to still get to people. So
when is the last time you gave a live concert? I bet you missed those.
I think that was in February.
Yeah. Where were you?
In Ghana.
you think the virtual concert is going to be different than your regular, full performance when you've got the feeling of the audience there that give you so much energy? How is it going to be?
It's so difficult. Trust me. I had a TV show last month with no audience, which the nature of the show is such that there's always studio audience. So everyone in the room was like a production team member and the host, the presenters. And I mean, you have to psych up your mind. And that is when those of us that studied performing arts, that is when we make really good use of whatever we were taught. Like in terms of theater, you assume that, oh, there's this number of people there, and you act. I have a nice synergy with the band, and so I was just having fun on stage because I always don't depend on the crowd to give me energy to perform. It's always like hand go, hand come. But in this, I had to rely on the band and then have fun with them on stage. Just that I have to act looking into the camera, pretending like singing to 10,000s of people. But it was still fun because the band was on point and I had a good sound. So, I could still have some fun.
What do artists like yourself expect and hope to gain from an online virtual concert?
It's one way to keep the brand very relevant and to keep reminding you that, hey, this is your thing. This is what you are meant for. This is what you do. So keep pushing. With or with no pandemic, that is it. And musicians, we are like ambassadors, Sometimes we sing and then we entertain people, we encourage people, we give hope to people. So the fact that I cannot have a physical contact with the person to encourage them through my music or inspire them, we can still do it in another way.
Will we hear First Fool tomorrow?
You hear First Fool, you hear Lema, Zahanga, Brighter Side, Controller. I mean, you hear a lot. I like the way you control it. It's going to be streamed live through my YouTube channel, which is Lamisi Music, and then my Facebook too. So just subscribe to my channel, and then you'll be notified, giving the prompts as and when it's about to start.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck tomorrow. I'll be watching.
Thanks, Heather, for that exciting video. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.